night. We'll see you at 11. Have a great night.
Thanks for watching Channel 2 News, the Northwest news leader. Join Leah Hope and the Channel 2 News team for news throughout the weekend.
A flood of refugees flee southern Lebanon in advance of Israeli attacks, while in northern Israel, an onslaught of rockets from Hezbollah guerrillas. The U.S. government hunkers down at the approach of an ominous anniversary. And 100 years of running through the streets of Boston, a revolutionary race.
From ABC, this is World News Sunday. Here's Carol Simpson.
Good evening. With each passing day, the situation along the Israeli-Lebanese border grows more unstable and more dangerous. Israel continues its massive air attack on southern Lebanon, while Hezbollah responds with a torrent of Katyusha rockets aimed at northern Israel. And late today, a threat from Hezbollah aimed at the United States and Israel. An unnerving display on Hezbollah-run television showed what it claims are potential suicide bombers. 70 volunteers with explosive devices strapped to their bodies. In the midst of all this, civilians on both sides are being forced to run for cover. Here's ABC's Bill Redeker.
The exodus from southern Lebanon accelerated today. Warned by Israel to leave, 200,000 residents fled the coastal city of Tyre and headed north. Israeli warplanes expanded their zone of influence 20 miles into southern Lebanon. Military officials say they destroyed 2 Hezbollah radio transmitters and numerous houses used by the guerrillas to launch rockets. Once again, the Air Force showed off its laser-guided missile technology, claiming it demonstrated they were attacking specific targets, like this vehicle parked at the side of a road, and this power transformer. The Israelis said they bombed the transformer in retaliation for a Hezbollah attack on a power grid in northern Israel. Israeli long-range artillery again shelled Lebanese villages along the border, but it did not stop Hezbollah from counterattacking. In fact, northern Israel suffered its biggest rocket attack in years. At least 45 rockets fell on settlements in 11 hours, though only a few people were slightly injured. After students had been evacuated from the school, a Katyusha rocket slammed through its roof. Tonight, an underground bomb shelter took a direct hit. No one was hurt, but nerves were badly shaken. Israel's foreign minister insisted that as long as the rocket attacks continued, there would be no hope for a ceasefire.
That steps should be taken by the government in Beirut in order to dismantle and disarm the Hezbollah.
The Lebanese prime minister refused, saying it would be impossible to disarm Hezbollah without risking a civil war. He urged Israel to withdraw and promised to put the Lebanese army in charge if he could get help from the United Nations and France. That offer was rejected. The military campaign continues on day 4 of Israel's assault against Hezbollah. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
Late today, the State Department issued a statement accusing Hezbollah of starting this latest round of violence and urged the group to stop the rocket attacks. The large-scale evacuation of American and other foreigners in Liberia has ended for now. What they leave behind is complete chaos, with gangs of young gunmen swarming over the streets of Monrovia. It has been a week since the peace between the Liberian government and rebel forces broke down. ABC's Sheila McVicker arrived today in the Liberian capital.
Just outside the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia, some of the scenes of chaos that have led so many to flee the country. Armed militiamen, including teenagers, roam the streets. There is no law or order. Looters are taking everything they can get. International aid agency vehicles, UN computers, air conditioners, all the trappings that made Monrovia function as an African capital are disappearing on the back of pickup trucks. More than 10,000 people, all Liberians, have sought shelter at a U.S. residential compound. Using UN trucks, U.S. Embassy staff and Red Cross workers have been able to deliver some food, but conditions there are not good. Many of the refugees were forced at gunpoint to flee their homes, and they have nothing left. They took our clothes, everything. Our bag. Put guns in us, everything. Most foreign nationals, including U.S. citizens who want to leave Liberia, have already been airlifted to safety. U.S. Embassy staff estimate there may be only 70 Americans still in the country who want to get out. The U.S. ambassador says, in spite of the chaos, his embassy will remain open.
We have no plans to pull out of here. This embassy will stay here, as far as I know, and we intend to stay and be active in the peace process.
But tomorrow, all non-essential embassy staff will be flown out, leaving behind fewer than 20 protected by U.S. soldiers in the midst of a tenuous ceasefire. Sheila McVicker, ABC News, Monrovia.
Around the nation, there are security concerns as an ominous date, April 19th, approaches. That story when we come back. Also tonight, a look at what 3 world capitals expect to gain from a presidential trip. And the Boston Marathon, 100 years old and still running.
This is World News Sunday, brought to you by Kellogg's.
So I just got married, and my husband says, try Crispix. Crispix doesn't get soggy in milk. Hey, I love the guy, but nobody's perfect. Okay, it starts off crispy. Now, this spoonful is still crispy, but it's going to turn soggy. So he makes a little mistake.
Kellogg's Crispix cereal. Delicious corn and rice that stays crispy to the end.
The last bite, it's going to be soggy. Hey, it's still crispy. He is perfect. So far.
Chances are it will outlast your car, and your furnace, and your roof. There's no telling what your Moen faucet might outlast. Moen. Buy it for looks. Buy it for life.
Are you taking chances without a calcium supplement? It could take 20 years to find out. By then, it may be too late. Which one should you take? Oscal. Oscal is tested and proven effective in clinical studies, and doctor recommended for pennies more a day. Don't take chances. Take Oscal.
A tragic accident in Montana has claimed the first life in the 3-week-old standoff between federal agents and the so-called Freemen. Special Agent Kevin Kramer, 34 years old, was killed today when his car skidded off a dirt road near the Freeman compound. Kramer arrived just yesterday from the FBI's SWAT headquarters in Omaha. Federal agents across the country are on alert this week as a troubling date draws near. A day of special significance among those groups resisting federal authority. Here's ABC's Juju Chang.
For the federal government, as the anniversary of Oklahoma City approaches, April 19th will be a day of extra precautions.
It's a day of remembrance, so it's a little bit a day of grieving as well as a day of watchfulness.
They're watchful because anti-government groups place special significance on April 19th. The day of the federal assault on Waco, the siege at Ruby Ridge. Also the date accused bomber Timothy McVeigh had on his fake driver's license. A year later, the federal government is still implementing 8,500 recommendations to tighten security. Hundreds of X-ray machines and metal detectors, pop-up barriers, and high-tech surveillance cameras are being installed in the more than 1,200 federal buildings across the country. Total cost, $280 million.
Our job is to be as clever as we can to make security measures as unobtrusive as possible, but as secure as possible.
Since Oklahoma City, more federal buildings have concrete barriers to stop car bombers. 800 extra security guards are on patrol, and even the White House grudgingly closed off Pennsylvania Avenue. But those who track extremist groups say security must be coupled with better intelligence gathering.
Once a group indicates that it intends to carry out its goals through the use of violence, then those groups can be infiltrated, we can gather information, and we can take action to stop them.
The government is already on heightened alert around federal buildings, but some workers are apprehensive.
Well, I've thought about not coming into work, but, you know, that's just me. I think, on the whole, people are comfortable.
With the Freemen standoff in Montana and the upcoming Oklahoma City bombing trial, federal officials say the week leading up to April 19th will be one of extra vigilance. Juju Chang, ABC News, Washington.
In Cheyenne, Wyoming today, residents remembered a little girl who died in their town on her way to bigger things. Dozens of children and their parents came to the memorial service for 7-year-old Jessica Dubroff. Jessica was killed on Thursday with her father and her flight instructor as she tried to set the record for the youngest person to fly across the country. She will be buried tomorrow in her hometown of Pescadero, California. And we'll be back in a moment.
Let's see. Now available. New communications company with some experience. Invented dial tone. Also phone, transistor, laser, cellular. Has won awards, Nobel, etc. Formerly part of AT&T, now Lucent Technologies. We make the things that make communications work.
Long titles are out. Teams are in. Inboxes are out. Emails in. Travel like this, out. Travel like this, in. Walls are out. Wheels are in. No matter how far out stuff gets, we'll always have what's in. Hayworth, furniture for what's next.
Ciamdihela. Timpamon come si.
Elle devient plus petite.
Ogni giorno la rete globale di computer.
Poszperaj po dalekiej starej bibliotece.
Gerdu ligt de Buenos Aires als smal pjöltjörfilm.
Curios? Vielleicht veamos.
Just plug in.
Come si. Udie uomo.
No one knows why they play Follow the Leader, but at least we know who they've been following. Sea-Doo is the best-selling boat in the world.
See your Sea-Doo watercraft dealer for a chance to win an all-new 1997 Ford F-150.
This evening, President Clinton heads to South Korea, first stop on a three-nation tour, including what has been called the most important Japanese summit since World War II. After a stop in Jeju, South Korea, the president heads to Japan, then to Russia. In both nations, there are vital issues of trade and security. ABC's Mark Litke is in Tokyo and Gillian Findlay is in Moscow. We asked them to compare notes with our White House correspondent, Jerry King, in Washington.
For the first time in a long time, an American president heads for Asia with something other than economics uppermost in his mind.
With China and North Korea engaged in a bit of military posturing of late, Mr. Clinton will solidify America's military presence in the Pacific. He'll sign a new joint security declaration with Japan.
Here in Japan, it's cherry blossom season, and arriving along with the warmer weather, much warmer relations with the U.S. It was all smiles today as Defense Secretary Perry met with Prime Minister Hashimoto and defense officials to reaffirm the importance of the U.S.-Japan security alliance. What a difference from the months of anti-American protests over the rape of a Japanese schoolgirl by 3 American servicemen on Okinawa. A dark cloud hung over the U.S. forces based here until Washington finally made a major concession, promising to close one military base to slim down and consolidate others, mostly on Okinawa, where they occupy a large percentage of the land. To many Japanese, it's a promise that finally demonstrates more sensitivity to their feelings.
For the Clinton administration, there's been constant economic friction with Japan. But as he prepared for this trip, Mr. Clinton was positively glowing about trade with Tokyo, bragging about deals that have sent U.S. exports to Japan soaring up 85%.
Today, exports to Japan support more than 800,000 good-paying American jobs, including 150,000 new ones since 1992.
Japanese leaders don't like to admit that gaiatsu, or foreign pressure, changes their policies, yet this time it wasn't just U.S. pressure that boosted imports here. The stronger yen has made imported goods much cheaper, And 4 years of recession have turned the once free-spending Japanese into a nation of bargain hunters. When it comes to U.S. cars, they do better because Detroit has gotten smarter, giving the Japanese more of what they want, like trendy Jeeps, and for the first time, vehicles tailored for Japan with right-hand drive. As usual, it was both pressure and changing economic realities that led to improvement, boding well for a smooth Clinton visit here. For now, a season of Japan bashing seems to have ended.
From Tokyo, Mr. Clinton moves on to Russia, first to St. Petersburg, then to Moscow. There, his primary focus will be another threat.
That threat is the one of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, biological weapons proliferating to countries all over the world.
It was last year in Halifax that Boris Yeltsin invited the world's top industrial powers to a summit on nuclear safety. But the U.S. is not likely to make much headway on one of its main issues, the sale of Russian nuclear reactors to Iran.
President Yeltsin will tell President Clinton at this summit that if the United States is so worried about the safety of Russian nuclear material, it should do more to help. And that means more money to guard Russia's massive stockpiles of highly enriched uranium and plutonium. In the last few years, there have been documented cases of theft. In the wrong hands, the U.S. fears it could be catastrophic. No less worrisome, with the anniversary of the Chernobyl disaster just days away, is the state of Russia's aging nuclear reactors. If the West wants them upgraded, the Russians will say, it must again help to pay.
For the U.S., there's another unspoken agenda, perhaps less lofty than issues of nuclear security, but just as important for the administration. The U.S. hopes the summit will have a positive impact on President Yeltsin's chances in the upcoming elections.
At a time when he's running for his political life, Boris Yeltsin is gambling that this week's meeting will do more to help than hurt him, to make him look like a statesman, rather than give his opponents another opportunity to accuse him of pandering to the West.
He would say, look here, Americans respect Russia. They recognize that Russia is not a puppet, is not a junior ally, but rather an equal partner.
It's particularly important now, with the election just weeks away and the communists still running out front. But to pull it off, Yeltsin needs President Clinton to play along. No criticisms of Russia's war in Chechnya, for example.
As is often the case with these foreign trips, the White House is downplaying expectations, possibly for two reasons. One, because the president will not attempt to break much new ground. And two, if there are any breakthroughs, Mr. Clinton could then take credit. It is, after all, an election year. Jerry King, ABC News, the White House.
And we'll be back in a moment.
After driving through Botswana's never-ending supply of mud, we came upon the largest animal of the land, the African elephant. These massive creatures can plow over trees with the butt of their heads, and spectators best stand clear, for they can pick up objects weighing nearly 2 tons. The preceding has been brought to you by the powerful all-new Nissan Pathfinder, now with 20% more cargo room to help you haul big things around.
Before you take another Tylenol, you should know what these clinical studies prove. On tough headache pain, Advil works better than extra-strength Tylenol. On day after muscle pain, again, Advil works better than Tylenol. Even on pain following dental surgery, Advil works better. Clinical after clinical shows on tough pain, 2 Advil work better than any 2 extra-strength Tylenol. Over 30 million people trust Advil to safely relieve pain. Ask your doctor. Advil just works better.
The last one's left the house. It's just the 2 of you now. It's time for Create a Meal. It's a great meal without a big hassle. Brown your favorite meat, lay on a hearty measure of Green Giant's fresh-tasting veggies, our delicious Create a Meal sauce, and in 20 minutes, it's dinner, the way it used to be. It's a fresh solution to dinner. Create a Meal. Green Giant.
When asked, 9 out of 10 people say they'd rather be on vacation than at home.
Come on. Bored.
You have to
I have to practice. Mom, she's a train professional. Do not throw the duck.
Of course, most of the people they asked didn't own a John Deere, because in survey after survey, folks are more satisfied with John Deere than other lawn tractors.
Honey, it's green.
It sure is.
Nothing runs like a deer.
Tomorrow, South Africa begins a 2-year effort to put to rest its violent apartheid past. That's when Nobel laureate Archbishop Desmond Tutu convenes for the first time his Truth Commission. After enduring nearly 4 decades of race war, victims will be allowed to tell the world how they suffered. But getting those responsible for the violence before the commission required a controversial deal. Here's ABC's Nathan Thomas.
In Guguletu Township, which has seen so much violence, there is great hope for the Truth Commission. Finally, someone to listen to their stories of past horrors. I saw on television my son's body being dragged by police, said this woman. I still don't know why they killed him. At informal sessions, Archbishop Tutu has already had a preview of the pain his commission will be hearing. A social worker spoke for an 82-year-old victim of police violence.
My own husband was shot in front of me the very same day they raped me more than 10 times.
From the Sharpeville massacre in 1960 through the violence of the early 90s, the commission will try to chronicle the murders, torture, and terrorism that cost tens of thousands of lives and forever changed millions of others.
For this country to be healed, we are requiring that the truth must come out. Who did what? When? Why?
But getting at that truth, encouraging those responsible for the violence to testify, the commission offers amnesty from civil and criminal prosecution. That has angered many survivors who say the murderers must not go free and there should be justice. So the question for the Truth Commission is whether learning the truth about the past without punishing the guilty will heal old wounds or create new ones. Nathan Thomas, ABC News, Johannesburg.
Earlier today, we spoke with Archbishop Tutu in East London, South Africa, and asked him why amnesty is being offered to those who may have committed atrocities.
That is part of the price you have to pay in a negotiated settlement. You have to be making compromises.
So that was a negotiated agreement that the only way you could have the Truth Commission was to grant amnesty to perpetrators of violence.
Provided they make a full disclosure. And that is quite costly, standing up in public and acknowledging that you committed some dastardly deeds.
Do you expect many horror stories to be delivered before the commission?
Oh, I think it's going to be very, very traumatic. I don't know how many of us are going to be able to survive listening to harrowing stories. I know that I am going to find it particularly difficult.
After the Truth Commission is completed, what do you hope will be the result of having gone through this exercise?
That we will be able to say we have dealt with the past. Its ghosts will not come to haunt us. We are going to close that chapter of our history and concentrate on the present and the future and live together as a new, a healed people.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu in East London, South Africa. And we'll be right back.
I see a lot of people that put up with scratch lenses. LensCrafters DuraLens can help make that problem go away. No other plastic lens is more scratch resistant. DuraLenses help me help people see better. I feel really good about that.
DuraLens, only at LensCrafters.
Cappuccino from Maxwell House. The magic without the machine.
It's an automobile that has become part of the American landscape. A car that for over 2 million people has become an indispensable part of their lives. Automobile Magazine called it the best car built in America. We call it the 1996 Camry, the gold standard from Toyota.
Tomorrow, scientific breakthroughs, how you can stop, even reverse the aging process. Plus the outrageous star of America's most outrageous movies. From the birdcage, Nathan Lane.
That's tomorrow on Good Morning America. In sports, in golf, Nick Faldo picked up his third green jacket today, coming from behind to win the Masters tournament in Augusta, Georgia. Only Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus have more Masters victories to their names. Australian Greg Norman came into this match with a healthy 6-stroke lead. He goes home with a record he can't be happy about, the largest lead ever lost in a Masters tournament. And then there's the Boston Marathon. It was once an obscure local foot race. But tomorrow, when more than 38,000 men and women come from all over the globe for the 100th running of the Boston Marathon, they will be taking part in a rite of spring, one that has spawned a series of American revolutions. ABC's Deborah Amos takes us down the road.
They're off. Next stop, Boston. New record time. Greatest runner in the world today.
For 100 years, they've come to see greatness and something more.
It takes greatness to win, but to finish is pure determination, pure will. It's pure human spirit.
A 26-mile run brought home from an Olympic revival in Greece. Always on Patriots' Day, a race that honors the American Revolution and revolutionized sports. The early greats were blue-collar men, like Clarence DeMar, who trained after work, and Johnny Kelly, who ran the most.
I started the Boston Marathon 61 times. I crossed the finish line 58 times. But years ago, before you were born, we didn't have much. Sneakers, bowling shoes, whatever you could find.
That search eventually changed what we all wear on our feet. From heavy shoes to running shoes. And there were more important revolutions. Roberta Gibb hid behind a bush 30 years ago and jumped into the start of the all-male marathon after her official application was rejected.
And I got a letter back, and they said women aren't physiologically able to run 26 miles. And furthermore, they're not allowed to. They're only allowed to run 1/2 mile, and that's it. So, but I didn't say, well, I'll be a good girl. I'll go back to my knitting. I said, all the more reason to run.
Almost 30 years later, Uta Pibig's finish time was 30 minutes faster than the first man who ran the race. And there were other firsts, events that changed how we see each other, how we feel about ourselves, even what we eat.
The Boston Marathon started the running revolution, which brought hundreds of thousands of runners into the sport, and now there's a huge business behind this sport that used to be entirely invisible.
From the Boston streets to Main Street, the billion-dollar fitness business came to this birthday party of 1.5 million spectators in what may be the biggest event in Boston ever. A Roman emperor canceled the first Olympic Games after 1,000 years. Too much spectacle, he said, not enough sport. On the 100th birthday of the Boston Marathon, there is still spectacle, but there's also plenty of sport.
It's still a democratic race. Anyone can go and run the Boston Marathon. Try to beat an Olympic gold medalist or the defending champion, and they might even beat them.
Everybody has their story. And, I mean, the tears rolling down my eyes when I watch this human drama, and I think they're so strong and yet so vulnerable. This is like life.
And even after 100 years, the only equipment needed to finish the marathon is pure human will. Deborah Amos, ABC News, Boston.
And that's World News Sunday. I'm Carol Simpson. Have a good week and good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News.